Alright, back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing yet another collaboration beer. This time between the Imprint Beer Company, and they're out of Hatfield, Pennsylvania, and Baa Baa Brewhouse, and they're out of Brookshire, Texas. And this is their Wild About Ewe Schmoojee. So they're calling this one a heavily fruited smoothie sour ale with raspberry, marshmallow, and coffee beans. It comes in at 6% alcohol by volume. No IBUs listed. Time of review. And this can is just over 5 weeks old. So we have another Schmoojee from Imprint, and that's because we just got a huge drop of their beers here in the Buffalo, New York area about, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I picked this one up because it sounded the most interesting because it has coffee in it. And I haven't had too many fruited sours with coffee, and certainly not heavily fruited sours with coffee. So I thought I would pick this one up. Now, as far as like beers I have reviewed on the channel that are fruited sours with coffee, two stick out. And that is, both of them come from McKellar Brewing San Diego. Their Raspberry Blush and their Double Blush. Double Blush, one of the best fruited sours I've ever had, period. It was delicious. So I'm hoping that the coffee plays well with the raspberry and marshmallow in this one. The issue I have with a lot of these heavily fruited smoothie sour beers is that they're too sweet a lot of times. So maybe the coffee will impart some bitterness and just a different character that you don't typically get from heavily fruited sours. So anyway, let's crack this one open, get in the glass. I also want to give a shout out to Kenny over at Premier Gourmet, which is one of my favorite local beer stores. He was like, I'm very curious about this one. I was like, you know what? So am I. And that's why I'm going to grab it. So I appreciate him recommending or showing me this one because I didn't know what I was going to grab, but this one definitely makes a lot of sense now that I'm thinking about it. All right, we'll see. These usually have the rising head. I might have to take a sip if the head rises too much. That's how it goes. And I didn't even pour it all that aggressive. It's just all the puree and everything. So we'll see if we'll have to save it. I don't think we will, but we might. Yeah, we might. Let's see. We're going to need to save it. Nope, I think we're good. Perfection. Although we do got a little Dirty Glass Mafia. So what does that look like? Well, that looks like a heavily fruited sour, my friends. That's what that looks like. It has this like magenta color. It has a, say, almost four-finger of this like light purple colored head. Looks super frothy. You can't see through it. It's murky. It's turbid. Hold it up to the light. Yeah, nothing's getting through that. It's basically raspberry fruit puree with marshmallow and coffee beans, and that's, you know, the base typically in these is like a kettle sour. So anyway, let's get a nose. Wow, that smells amazing. But here's the thing, I'm not getting coffee. That smells like some sort of like raspberry cream, just dessert. Maybe a pie, maybe a cake. Almost like a picture like, I don't know, like a birthday cake with like raspberry filling. That's kind of what this smells like. Like the marshmallows kind of mimicking the frosting. The raspberry has more of that innards of like a raspberry jam almost. And then there is this like bready, doughy kind of component. It smells fucking dynamite. But it does it smell like beer? No, because a lot of these don't smell like beer. But it's very simplistic. It's raspberry, it's marshmallow, and it's like there's a doughy, bready kind of malt character that's reminiscent of me to like, you know what this smells like? A raspberry cheesecake with like a dollop of whipped cream on top. That's exactly what it smells like. But I'm bummed out I'm not smelling the coffee. I was hoping it would be very prominent. And this is only just over 5 weeks old, so. Anyway, it looks fucking wild. I want to get into it. We'll see if I can actually get to the base beer because that head doesn't look like anything's penetrating it. All right, cheers. Try again. Oh, okay, there's the coffee. The first sip was all head. And the second sip, I got some of the base. And I didn't get the coffee on the first sip. I'm getting it now. There's a really nice, dry, mild to moderately bitter, kind of roasted aspect on the back of the palate. It's kind of weird, but it works. Body on this is thick, but it's not like some of the crazy thick ones you get. Those thick boys that are, you know, like drinking syrup. are drinking like a legit smoothie. This is like higher side of medium, lower side of full. Maybe I'd say lower side of full body. I mean, it's thick. It's 6%. It drinks like something that's like 10%, right, in terms of beer. But because of fruit puree and everything, it's always going to be a little bit thicker body-wise. So yeah, lower side of full body in terms of the body itself. The mouthfeel, it's soft. It's super creamy. It's fantastic, the mouthfeel. The taste, I'm going to pour the rest in here. There's only a little bit, do a little bit of swirl. The taste, though, this is not a complicated beer. This is not overly complex. It's not, I'm going to go back each sip and pick out something else. No, this is very simplistic in its approach. There is a shit ton of raspberry. This drinks like a liquefied, it's like, this is a perfect way for me to describe it based on kind of what I'm feeling off of those, first 4 or 5 sips. This is drinking like you're eating a piece of like raspberry cheesecake, or maybe like a raspberry like birthday cake or something like that with a cup of black coffee. So it's a lot of raspberry. It's raspberry jam. It's sweeter raspberry. It's seedy raspberry, but it's sweet. It's sweet with like a little bit of tartness. That hits me at the front, carries on through the palate. Predominant note, but it's not too much. It's definitely noticeable. Right after that, although I get not marshmallow, but I get big like vanilla or like frosting vibes to this one. Or even cream cheese, right? So that's where I say a cheesecake or like the frosting of a birthday cake or just a cake in general. That's the first half of the palate, maybe the first 2/3 of the palate. It's those two notes with a very slight underlying like bready, doughy malt sensation. Second half of the palate is where the base kettle sour comes in, and it has a very tart kind of feeling to it. You get hit with a nice tartness, and then there's a mild acidity along with it. But as it finishes, the coffee pops in for me, and it turns this one into a somewhat a full-on dry kind of finish. And while this is super sweet at the front of the palate, there's enough dryness, and there's a mild to moderate bitterness from the coffee itself, or maybe just the beer itself, that kind of stops the sweetness from being too much and cloying. And this one finishes with, again, there's a coffee kind of presence on the finish, which a lot of times when I get coffee, it's usually not on the finish. This time, on the finish, and it's interesting. 6% doesn't drink like it because probably no alcohol in here, right? No, it hides the alcohol extremely well. Like most 6% beers nowadays, you can't taste the alcohol. Doesn't matter what the style is for the most part. So I didn't expect to. Is this sweet? Yes. Is this overly sweet? No. What I love about it is there's a nice tart, acidic, dry finish to this one that allows it to be way more drinkable than it should be. And right now I'm going to drink this off camera. And even though this can's probably somewhere between like 500 to 800 calories, right? I'm going to enjoy every second of this. This is my dessert for the night, and I'm going to enjoy it. I think it encompasses everything you want out of this. You get the raspberry, you get the marshmallow, you get the coffee beans. I think the raspberry definitely dominates the palate for the most part, but not in a bad way. I think it's an actual positive. Is this my favorite fruited sour of all time? No, I think that McKellar Brewing San Diego Double Blush blows this one away. I don't even know if they make that beer anymore, but I just remember that one having such a great balance to it and nuances that this doesn't have. But if you're into these heavily fruited smoothie sour ales and you want something different, you don't want the same flavor, because so many of these are like, here's 3 fruits and marshmallow, here's 3 fruits and vanilla beans, some will throw in now chocolate, but a lot of times you get like chocolate, peanut butter, so they'll go that route. To have coffee with raspberry and marshmallow, very different, extremely unique, and fun. This is just a fun beer, and I enjoy it. So, Wild About Ewe Schmoojee from Imprint and Baa Baa Brewhouse. I have no problems giving this one a straight 4.25 out of 5. I think that's where this one lands. It's good, it's drinkable, and it's highly enjoyable. So if you get Imprint in your area, give this one a go if you like these beers and you're looking for something kind of outside the box. Price point availability, I did go over my typical $8 a can threshold just because of the uniqueness with the coffee beans. This was $8.99 a can in my neck of the woods, so $9 a can. Would I pay that again for this beer? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't pay $9 a can for any of these beers nowadays, these heavily fruited smoothie sour ales, because there's so many breweries out there doing it for, $5, $6 a can, that paying $8 or $9 on a regular basis, I wouldn't personally do. But once in a while, I'll grab an Imprint, or a Drecker's usually like in the $7 range. Who else does them a little bit more expensive? There's a couple other breweries that they're more expensive when they hit distro. I'll still pick up Imprint stuff occasionally, but this specific beer I would not rebuy again at $8.99. Can might be cheaper in your neck of the woods, and I imagine this was way cheaper at the brewery. And availability, I have no idea with Imprint. I just know we see them here in Buffalo, New York. I think they get some distribution. I think they might even distribute on their website, but I don't know that for sure. And yeah, if you've had this one before, post in the comment section. If not, have you had anything from Imprint you think I should try out at some point if it gets released in my neck of the woods? They usually drop like 10 different beers when we get stuff here in the Buffalo, New York area, and I look at all them, I usually can't make a decision. This one was easy because Ketty recommended it, but at the same time, I was like, yeah, it's coffee beans, this is something different. A lot of times, it's just a mixture of different fruits. It's like, well, what one sounds the best? This one sounded the best this time around, and I'm not disappointed I picked it up. So yeah, appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. To the next one. Cheers.